Introducing Andy Ruiz Jr.
You looked at Andy and you thought he doesn't look like what a heavyweight is supposed to look like, but when you saw his skills in the ring, you knew, wow, this kid can fight.
Ruiz is out firing.
For a big guy, he has really fast counters.
Ruiz comes to fire back, and now a barrage, and Sam's in trouble, and down he goes.
My whole life, everybody was judging me the way that I looked. I didn't give up, and I think that's what took me this far.
That's it! He says that's it! And Andy Ruiz has shocked the world.
Becoming the first Mexican heavyweight champion of the world, it was amazing.
He did what most people can't do. He knocked out the heavyweight champion with all the belts. And then he threw it away.
But Andy Ruiz had to recover from immense and sudden success. And it turns out that can be difficult.
This fight is important because now I'm focused and I'm gonna do the things right.
My name is Arreola. They call me the Nightmare.
Chris Arreola is the prototypical Mexican warrior. Come forward, take 3 punches to land 1.
I come and I keep coming. No matter what fight it is, I ain't scared. I want to be remembered.
He's had 3 opportunities to compete for the heavyweight championship of the world. He's come up short, but Chris Arreola still wants a chance to become a heavyweight champion, and he's hungry to still get it at 40 years old.
And this one is over! Chris Arreola!
I'm the guy that's going to keep coming. I'm going to come out with the victory.
I learned the lesson of defeat, and I promise you, when I become a 2-time Mexican heavyweight champion of the world, I'm not going to take it for granted.
In Southern California, former heavyweight champion Andy Ruiz Jr. is training for his May 1st pay-per-view fight with longtime heavyweight contender Chris Arreola. It's Ruiz's first fight since he lost his heavyweight title to Anthony Joshua in 2019. He's now under the guidance of one of the sport's best trainers in Eddie Reynoso, also trainer of pound-for-pound king Saul Canelo Alvarez.
After my defeat in Saudi Arabia against Anthony Joshua, I messaged Canelo and I told him, hey man, like, you think you could help me? I want to be a part of the team. I want to change. I want to become a heavyweight Canelo, you know, someone that's disciplined, someone that's focused and, you know, wants to conquer and do a legacy in boxing. And he said, all right, let me talk to Eddie. Let's see what we could do. And what do you know, he hits me back up the next day and we had a little meeting and that's when they welcomed me in.
Trabajar fuerte, creo que está trabajando bastante fuerte en lo físico, en lo técnico. Yo no sé cómo trabajaba en otros campamentos, la verdad lo ignoro, pero para este campamento está trabajando muy fuerte y los resultados se están viendo en su físico.
Ruiz started boxing at the age of 6 and turned pro in 2009, but was often judged by his appearance rather than his skill.
My whole life, everybody was judging me the way that I looked because I was always this chubby little kid. Once they saw me, they're like, oh, you know what, that kid's gonna lose. He's not gonna make it far. He don't take it serious, but I just kept going. I didn't give up, and I think that's what took me this far.
When you look at Andy Ruiz's body, he doesn't look like your prototypical boxer. He looks like a guy getting off the couch. But he doesn't hit like a guy getting off the couch. He's got hand speed, he's got power, he's got movement for a big guy. And he's one of the most interesting and explosive fighters in the heavyweight division.
Andy Ruiz, known as the Destroyer. It's a nickname that he had rising the ranks when he was knocking guys out. Turned more of into a technician, but that doesn't sound as cool as being the Destroyer.
They gave me the nickname Destroyer because I was always destroying stuff. Actually, this was way back. I was like 4 years old. I guess it stayed. I got stuck with the name Destroyer.
Andy Ruiz is your typical Mexican fighter in many ways. He's got that come forward, aggressive style.
A lot of power, very quick hands. For a guy that big, probably some of the quickest hands in the heavyweight division.
This kid became a must-see attraction in boxing, and you knew sooner or later he was going to get a big opportunity in the heavyweight division. December of 2016, Andy Ruiz finally gets his opportunity to challenge for a vacant heavyweight title, but he has to travel all the way to Auckland, New Zealand to face Joseph Parker, who calls New Zealand home.
You know, they gave me an opportunity to fight for the WBO heavyweight champion of the world, and that was my dream, you know.
Joseph Parker was 24 years old at the time, 21-0. So this was the battle of two hungry, young, undefeated fighters. This was a very anticipated matchup in the heavyweight division.
Kind of a chess match going back and forth. Andy Ruiz trying to always find his way to come forward and get in on the inside. Joseph Parker trying to keep him at a distance.
Andy started out really, really good. Parker had his flows in there. He was light on his feet, started using his jab a lot.
Ruiz came out consistent. He held a slight edge in total connects over the first 6 rounds, but that's when Parker took over in the second half of the fight, and only by the slimmest of margins. But Parker started to outwork Ruiz a little bit. Ruiz maybe slowed down a bit, and Parker maybe found that extra motivation, that extra energy needed, maybe because he was fighting in his hometown and the fans were going crazy for him. But it was starting to slip away a little bit from Andy Ruiz in those later rounds.
Andy Ruiz has an amazing chin, which is a useful tool, especially in the heavyweight division, and that was on full display on this night. Joseph Parker is not necessarily known as a knockout artist, but he absolutely has power. And Andy Ruiz was taking Joseph Parker's hardest shots and walking right through them. That's what makes Andy Ruiz special.
It was so close, in fact, the fight, that you had 2 judges who, by the end of it, had called it 115 to 113, and one judge 114, 114. So definitely a contentious decision in terms of how that one played out.
Obviously, the biggest night of Parker's life. You know, he becomes the first New Zealander to be heavyweight champion, but immense disappointment on Andy Ruiz Jr.'s part. You know, he was vying to be great, vying to make history. He suffers his first career loss.
I personally think that I lost the fight because I knew that I could have done better and I didn't do the things that I was supposed to do. So it was his shine, but I feel like I got the upper hand after that.
Even though Andy Ruiz lost this fight, in a way, he won the night, or at least announced his presence in the heavyweight division. We were now aware of Andy Ruiz, and we've seen him tested against a top fighter, and he held his own, and some people could even argue that he won this fight.
And if you're Andy Ruiz, yeah, you lost the fight, you lost your first world title fight, but there's nothing to be ashamed of. You keep your head held high. There's no reason why, if you're Andy Ruiz, you don't think you can get another shot.
Chris the Nightmare Arreola is busy preparing for his May 1st pay-per-view clash with former heavyweight champion Andy Ruiz Jr. Arreola has a history with Ruiz. Their May 1st bout won't be the first time they have shared a ring together.
We sparred when I was 25, 26 years old. He was 17 years old. I remember seeing him sparring with this guy. First of all, don't judge a book by its cover, because he was fat, short, and I'm like, holy this guy, whatever, I guess I'll get in the ring with him. Holy this guy had the fastest hands that I've sparred with as a heavyweight. And then it got a little heated, and actually it was a very good sparring session, and I knew eventually I was gonna have to deal with him.
Alongside his trainer, Joe Goosen, Arreola readies for what could be his last run at the heavyweight elite. Throughout his career, he's been one of the sport's most exciting fighters, and his love for boxing was nurtured growing up in Los Angeles.
You know, boxing culture in Southern California is a big thing because it's a Hispanic-driven sport, and we have, I guess you could call it another Mexico out here in Los Angeles, California, you know. And the thing about growing up in Los Angeles, I started boxing at the age of 7. My dad was a boxing trainer, and I begged him to take me to the gym. He finally gave in and took me to the gym when I was 7 years old.
He comes from Mexican descent, and he was seen for the longest time as the best hope for a Mexican-American heavyweight champion.
Chris Arreola calls himself the Nightmare, and that's a good nickname for him because when you fight him, it is a nightmare. He's going to give you hell in that ring.
I'm a relentless fighter that keeps coming, you know. If you hit me once, I'm gonna try to hit you 2-3 times, and I'm gonna keep coming, you know. Just bite down on that mouthpiece, and if you get punched, make sure you don't get knocked out.
Chris Arreola always wanted to become the first Mexican-American heavyweight champion. Well, he got his opportunity in September of 2009 against Vitaly Klitschko.
I think for Chris Arreola, the opportunity to fight Vitaly Klitschko was his big break in boxing. He was a fighter that had a lot of us interested in who he was and what he could do. He was undefeated. He was an all-action fighter.
And when you look at Vitaly Klitschko, he's 6'7". He's a very large man. He has an absolutely iron chin. This was one of the hardest tests in boxing, but Chris Arreola finally had his elusive heavyweight title opportunity.
My mindset when I fought Klitschko was, don't get knocked out. I had it in me, in my mind. I kept watching the Rocky fight, and all he wanted to go was to go to the distance.
From the very beginning of the fight, Arreola did what he did most fights, and that was go forward to get on the inside this time with Klitschko.
Chris kept on coming forward, kept on trying to find opportunities, but it was difficult on the end of a long jab from Klitschko.
One thing that I learned is that I could take a punch, because he hit me with a couple right hands, and I'm like, holy. I felt like he was trying to hit the guy behind me, and there was no one behind me. He was trying to go through my head.
This was a dominating performance by Vitaly Klitschko. And eventually the referee stopped the fight after round 10. It was obvious that Chris Arreola was taking way too much punishment. And after this fight, you could see the emotions pouring out of Chris Arreola, crying in the post-fight interview.
And he said all he wanted to do was to win a title, to be the first Mexican ever to be a heavyweight champion. And he didn't get that, and I felt his pain.
I cried because I didn't go the distance. I felt like the carpet was pulled underneath me, and then the fight's over. I'm like, wait, what? I still have 2 more rounds to go. And yeah, it was a tough fight. It was a great fight that I definitely learned a lot about myself on that fight.
I expect a brawl for as long as it lasts, because I don't think this one's going the distance. No way.
It's really important for me to get this victory because I want to prove people wrong, you know? I wasn't just a one-hit wonder.
May 1st on pay-per-view, it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be non-stop rock'em sock'em Mexican fighters giving their all to win a fight.
And Sam's in trouble. Down goes Augustin. Ruiz has shocked the world. And this one is over.
He don't give up, I don't give up. We're both Mexican warriors. We're not scared of getting hit. And I think it's going to be an all-action fight.
All the pressure is on him. I have no pressure. I just got to go in there and fight.
I know what I could do, and I know we're going to get this victory on May 1st.
Former champion Andy Ruiz as he takes on veteran Chris Arreola, plus a stacked card of Mexican firepower.
Oh my goodness!
Buy now on foxsports.com/PPV.
Thank you for watching. Well, if you enjoyed that clip, make sure you click somewhere around here and subscribe. From fight highlights to exclusive interviews, we have got everything you need as a boxing fan right here on PBC on Fox.